Hello, my name is Chris Sagalo, and I've come back to tell another story. I've written a book that's called Running with Rainbows, The Afterlife and Other Stories. And I've been talking about the afterlife and situations that have occurred. And I will also be adding a few videos soon about some of the mystical things that I've seen through my life. I've mentioned before that I have a very intuitive family. My grandmother was a psychic and did seances, and I'm really not sure what else the family before her did, but I know that most of those in my grandmother's family, my dad's family, were very psychic and intuitive. And I've had enough years that many of the stories that I have put on my book have been because I've had enough lifetime to include a lot of stories. I didn't realize that I had different happenings than other people. I thought everybody lived the way that my family did. I found out that not everybody does understand. So I'm hoping that I will bring some information so that people will understand that we do not die, that there is a life beyond what we would call death on this earth. And I've talked with so many people, but I've also again seen a lot of different stories about mystical happenings that I think that many people just miss because life gets just too busy. So the story I want to talk about right now is about what happened to me. It was a while back. I was just in my sleep, just the beginning of my sleep at night, and two cloaked beings appeared at the end of my bed. And I really couldn't see what their faces looked like, but they had two black cloaks. And they said, "The daughter will die." And then they disappeared. And I didn't really know what to think of it. I mean, it's not something that happens all the time. So I asked my daughters if they were okay, and my granddaughters, and everybody seemed to be fine. And I didn't really feel an emotional connection to it. So I just kind of forgot about it. And then exactly a week later, they came back just when I was starting to sleep again. And I was kind of in a different state, I guess, because I was just very peaceful and starting to sleep. And they came back and said, "The daughter has died." So the form of me lifted up out of me, and I went with them. And I could feel the night air on my skin, and I knew approximately the direction that we were headed and where we were going. And it was just a little town that's just side of where I live. And all of a sudden, I was in an upstairs attic kind of room with a bed that had a window over it. And there was a little girl inside the bed, and she was in a fetal position. And they looked at me and said, "You know what to do." And then they disappeared again. And I climbed in bed with her, and she was a lifeless form of a little sweet child that looked like she was maybe about 7 or so years old. And I knew that she was at the end of this life on earth. And I held her and loved her and told her how she was loved and that she didn't need to be afraid, that a beautiful light filled with most wonderful love was soon going to come and take her to a wonderful place, and that she didn't need to be afraid, but that I loved her and that she didn't feel alone. And then the next thing I knew is that I was in my bed and my phone was ringing from a client that I had been working with that was hysterical, telling me that her daughter's house caught on fire the night before and that her granddaughter died. And I told her what had happened with me, and the room I described was the room her granddaughter was in. Apparently, the house caught on fire when the family was downstairs watching TV, and a electric stove caught on fire at the beginning of the stairway, just at the base of where the little girl had gone up to go to bed early, and they couldn't get to her. And so I told this to the grandmother, and she asked if I would go to the hospital with her to talk to the little girl's mother. So I did, and I told the little girl's mother what had happened, and she had burned her hands, and she had another couple of boys there that had burned their hands, and one little girl had been shipped off to a hospital that had more severe burns, but was expected to recover without any problems. So I was able to tell this mother that her little girl was not alone, and that she was loved, and that she went to the light without having any fear, and that she knew that her little girl was in God's hands, and that she was somewhat okay with that. I mean, it was still a very difficult time because this little girl had left them, but she was at least comforted to know that she was loved and wasn't alone. So from that time, I questioned some of these things. Why do I get to do this? Why did they pick me, and why did they come to me? I guess it's because it's just, that's who I am. The woman, the grandmother, brought the little children, the little girl and brother, to one of our sessions a few weeks later, and they were fine and talked about their sister who had left this world, but telling me how they still play with her and that she still visits, and that they're still a very connected family. And so I'm saying these things. It's a little bit difficult for me because it still kind of pulls me back into the emotion of it. But yet it makes me feel comforted to know that I could bring peace and love and harmony to someone who really needed it at that time. So I thank you for listening to my story. And I'm asking that everyone knows that you carry the love and light from your heart. And at this time, there seems to be a lot of things that are going on that people have fear about, and chaos in their lives. But all the more reason why we need to share love with one another and bring peace and harmony rather than fear. So I go downtown every day and get a cup of coffee and wear my hat and spread light and love. And it's amazing how many people respond to that. People that come by and say, wow, you look nice today, and you got a glow around you. And I think, well, yeah, I do. Can you feel it? It's my heart going out to you. And so here I go. Got my hat on, ready to go have a cup of coffee, and I'll see you on the next visit. Okay, bye-bye.